Hello, everyone. My name is Rashid Ali, and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant from Ontario, Canada. Today, I'm going to share some important updates regarding Canadian immigration programs. I will cover news from provincial nominee programs as well as federal express entry. And in the end, I will talk about opportunities for educators and skilled trades professionals to immigrate. Let's go through them one by one, and please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go along. I will try to answer them in the end. So let's dive in. So, first up, we have Saskatchewan. The province just got an increase of 1,136 nominations for 2025. That brings its total for this year to 4,761 nominations. Out of these new nomination spots given to the province, 284 nominations, or about 25%, are for trucking, accommodation, food service, and retail. These were capped earlier this year, but now applications will start moving again. The remaining 852 nominations are for non capped sectors, with priority for healthcare, agriculture, and skilled trades. This is very positive if you're working in one of these sectors, especially healthcare or trades, because Saskatchewan is signaling that those sectors are where the demand is the strongest in their province. Next is Nova Scotia. They've confirmed that they have 1,312 spaces left for 2025. Now, keep in mind their annual allocation was cut in half compared to 2024, just 3,150 spots in total this year. As of August 6th, they had already used 1,838 nominations. Demand is very high, with nearly 10,000 expressions of interest still waiting to be processed. So, selection will depend on a few things, such as labor market needs, especially healthcare and construction, regional workspace demands, and whether applicants are likely to settle long term in the province. So, the key takeaway here is that Nova Scotia is being very selective this year. If you're in healthcare or construction, your chances are higher, but overall, the space is tight. Now, let's move on to Ontario. In the last week or so, Ontario has invited 5,000 applicants through its three job offer streams. Let's start with the foreign worker stream. On September 3rd, on September 3rd, OINP invited 1,134 candidates with a minimum score of 42 with a job offer in dozens of occupations like HR, procurement, dentists, architects, journalists, welding supervisors, and many more professionals. Just a day earlier, on September 2nd, 1,305 applicants were invited with a minimum score of 41. These included nine healthcare professionals, including specialists in surgery, general practitioners, as well as nursing occupations, and early childhood educators. There was also a smaller round of invites on August 28th, where OINP issued 468 invitations across its five draws. These draws mainly targeted Northern Ontario and also the REDI pilot program. Similarly, OINP invited candidates from the international student stream. On September 3rd, 759 invites were sent with a minimum score of 63 to healthcare professionals and ECEs mainly. And on September 2nd, 1,105 invites were sent to many different professionals with a minimum score of 58. Finally, invites were also sent to in demand skill streams, which only consists of tier 4 and 5 occupations. On September 2nd, 233 invites were sent with a minimum score of 33. So far, there has been no invite this year for master's or PhD graduate streams. So you have to find an eligible job to qualify for the employer job offer streams instead. On September 2nd, we had Federal Express Entry draw for PNP candidates. 249 people were invited, but the cutoff score was 772. That's because anyone with a provincial nomination gets 600 extra points. So naturally, these cutoffs are very high. This is an interesting one. Alberta ran another draw under its law enforcement pathway on August 19th. Fewer than 10 invitations were issued, and the minimum CRS was only 45 points. Think I'm having some technical difficulties. Let me just reconnect my camera. I will continue for now. So, through the Alberta law enforcement pathway, fewer than 10 invitations were issued. The minimum score was only 45. This pathway was created last year to help fill police recruitment shortages, but the quota is tiny, only 20 spots for the entire year. As of end of August, 11 spots were already taken, with 9 left, and over 120 people are still waiting in the pool. So this is very competitive. And then we had a big CEC draw on September 3rd. 1,000 invitations were issued with a cutoff score of 534. CEC remains one of the most important pathways for international graduates and temporary workers who are already in Canada. The CRS is still on the higher side, but compared to PNP draws, it's much more accessible. If you've built Canadian work experience, this is the stream to watch. The Northwest Territories also announced that they're getting 47 more spots for their PNP this year on September 2nd. That increases their quota from 150 to 197 nominations. It's not a big number compared to provinces like Ontario, but it's significant for the region, especially since they had their quota cut from 300 last year down to 150. Applications will be processed in order of work permit expiry date. So if your work permit is running out soon and you're already in the pool, this is good news for you. Then on September 4th, IRCC held French language proficiency draw, one of the biggest of the year. 4,500 invitations were sent with a cutoff score of just 446 points. This was the third express entry draw in 1 week, following PNP draw and CEC draws. So far in 2025, 25,500 invites have been sent through the French category, which means that the federal government has invited 25,500 families to immigrate to Canada who do speak French, but they plan to live outside Quebec, the French province. So if you can prove your French ability, you're in a very strong position. These cutoffs are amongst the lowest in express entry. And finally, let's talk about what's coming up. A recent access to information and privacy request showed that IRCC still has thousands of ITAs left to issue in 2025 for their education and skill trades categories. For education, 3,000 total were allocated for this year, but only about 1,000 have been issued. So roughly 2,000 ITAs remain for this category. And for skill trades, 3,300 were allocated, and most of these are still available. There was an education draw in May with a cutoff score of 479, but with larger rounds, the score can come down even further. Skill trades historically go even lower because in 2024, big trade draws had cutoffs around 433 to 436. So if you're an educational professional, you're an educator with a CRS score between 450, 480, or a trades candidate, you may be in a very strong position for express entry. That's it for today. If you need my help with your application, feel free to schedule a call with me using this link or scan the QR code. And let me see if. Hi, Nomi from Paris. How are you? So yeah, that's another option. I do share live videos. I upload some shorts as well, and I also upload long form videos which cover different topics. So if you're someone who's looking to apply through one of these job offer streams that we talked about today, whether that's the international student stream, in demand stream, or job offer foreign worker stream, I have detailed videos in the channel on each of those streams. I also have calculators updated, and those calculators, updated calculators, are uploaded that you can download and access them. Okay, there is a question from Erica. I recently applied for a study permit, but I got informed by college that my selected program has been suspended. Okay, and transferred me to a closed related course. Closely related course, I'm assuming you're saying, do I need to raise a web form? I'm assuming what you're trying to say is you applied for a study permit, and after applying, you've come to know that you're going to pursue a different course. Yes, you should absolutely tell the visa officers, you should absolutely raise a web form and tell IRCC that the program has changed. It is close to the original program, and share as much supporting evidence as possible. And last minute change from college, won't that affect my study? Yes, absolutely. It can affect your study permit approval. That's why you should let IRCC know as soon as possible with all the supporting evidence. Question from Shazeb: is BSc nursing degree in India equal to Canadian BSc nursing degree? BSc, if you have a BSc degree and you go through the evaluation process, you'll find out for sure whether or not it's equivalent, but generally it is equivalent. The main issue is not just the equivalency of the degree. The main challenge with the nurses is getting their license, right? So I have, I think, 3 or 4 videos on the licensing process for nurses, whether you want to be a registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, nurse practitioner, or even a personal support worker. You'll see everything, hopefully, that you need to know if you just search for those relevant videos on the channel. Okay, there's a question from Beth. I applied for a tourist visit visa and I was denied because of the letter. So your purpose of visit is consistent with a temporary stay. That is a very common refusal. Canadian visa officers for visit visa, study visas, and work permit, they don't share very detailed refusal reasons. The reasons are very generic. So if they're saying that you were refused because of the purpose, it could mean a number of things. It could be related to it could be related to your finances, even. It could be related to the type of evidence you provided with the application. For example, whether or not you submitted return tickets, whether or not you had hotel reservations, whether or not you had travel insurance. So all of those things can impact your visa approval. So even though it seems like a very generic small reason, but underneath that reason, it could be a number of factors. That's why I have a few videos where I talk about how to submit a good application. So proving that you have strong ties to Canada, proving that you will, sorry, strong ties to your country of residence, proving that you will come back, the fact that you have, which is staying back, your employment obligations, maybe you're involved in the community. So a lot of work has to be done to submit a proper visit visa application, especially if you're someone who is a citizen of a country which has a weaker passport. So you have to put in a lot of effort. Thank you, Shazeb. Okay, so there is a question from Nomi Samir. Hello, my brother's visitor visa application was submitted about a year ago, but we haven't received any response yet. Could you please update me on its status? So there's some countries where the visitor visa processing is just taking a ridiculous amount of time because, like you said, I don't know if your brother is also living in France or not, but I've seen that residents of certain countries, for example, England, because the British don't need a visa to travel to Canada, they just need ETA. The people who apply for a visitor visa from England are those who are expats, who may be studying in the UK or maybe are living there on a work permit. So those applications are not really prioritized because they know that the British can easily get an ETA, come to Canada quickly. So I've seen that the processing time is very long. Your brother is living in Dubai, as you said. Dubai shouldn't take so long because their visa office is Abu Dhabi. So if it is taking one year, that is a bit unusual. Do they have any history of working in military or the police? So sometimes the background checks can take a long time. But if you feel that it's still taking, they're not in the military, they're not in the police, something like that, and it's still taking a long time. First of all, you can always make an ATIP request, access to information and privacy. It just costs $5, and you should apply through the official website. There are other websites who claim to get ATIP for you. They charge you slightly more, maybe $40, $50, but they're not the official site. So you can apply directly yourself, only 5 Canadian dollars. That should give you an idea of the status, especially if there's something related to security or something which is delaying their application. Uh, After that, once you know what's going on, you should update IRCC with some new documents. For example, if they said when they applied last year, if they said that I want to go for tourism or I want to go for a family gathering or something like that, you should still update IRCC to let them know that that purpose still exists. If your brother wanted to go for a family gathering, there is still a reason for your brother to go to Canada, right? Otherwise, officer might say a year has passed, their original reason for traveling to Canada is no longer valid, and they can refuse the application. So if I were you, I would make the ATIP request, get the visa officer's notes, try to understand what's going on, and then provide updated documents. So if you submitted a return ticket, I would provide an updated return ticket to prove that now you want to go, let's say in October or November, something like that. But if you feel that there is no reason to go to Canada any longer, that's fine as well. But that's what I would do. You're welcome, Beth. All right. White Hat Tester says, hello, my PR application has already been approved. I recently received access to the PR confirmation portal. But since I am currently outside Canada, I want to receive PPR instead. So this process is can be very, very messy. I've had clients whose express entry application was approved within 2 months, but this whole landing process took a long time because of reasons similar to yours. So first of all, you cannot do virtual landing if you're not in Canada. So you have to inform IRCC that you're currently not inside Canada. There is another option. Don't risk trying to get a COPR while you're outside of Canada. So you have to raise a web form. You can also reply to the email from which you received the request for your PR portal. Let them know clearly that you're outside of Canada right now and you are requesting a PPR instead. They should be able to respond to you. Sometimes they respond very quickly. Other times I've seen this back and forth go on for a few weeks. So you should definitely let them know. Beth is asking if I want to apply for a visit visa for myself and my kid. What am I supposed to do? Beth, it depends. What is your country of residence or citizenship right now? Depending on your country of residence and citizenship, your passport, you might have to submit a lot of supporting documents. But generally speaking, be very clear in your application. Why is it that you want to visit Canada? Is it for tourism? Do you want to visit some relatives? And yeah, okay. Generally speaking, for African countries, for most of them, I think the visitor visa refusal rates are quite high. So you should provide as much supporting evidence as you can. If it's a tourist visa, you should look like a genuine tourist, which means that you should ideally have some history of traveling to other countries. You should have a very decent amount of money to show that this trip is not a burden for you and your child. You should also have return tickets. You should have hotel reservation, and you should, if you've been refused a visa before, like a US visa, UK, or even a Canadian visa, you should address those refusal reasons, especially if your Canadian visa is refused. Declare all previous visa refusals, and in your submission letter, be very clear on the purpose of your visit. Like, why do you really want to visit Canada? Why not countries around you, right? Like, what is it about Canada that you want to explore and let's say not US or UK or something like that? So I would focus a lot on providing supporting documentation. Again, if you look at the channel, you should find some videos where you can get more information about what to include in your visitor visa application. If you need me to look at your application, I do provide that service as well. Yes, Beth, I do provide that service. Just send me an email, please. You should be able to see my contact information in the channel. And you can send me an email and we can take it from there for sure. White hat tester. My medical exam was extended to July 2026 before receiving the PR portal access. When to switch to PPR? Will they not ask for doing medical exam? The thing is, this is not something that's optional. If you are outside of Canada, you have no choice but to let IRCC know that you need a PPR. You will not be doing a virtual landing unless you can travel to Canada. And I don't know if you have another visa or not. Unless you can travel to Canada and do your virtual landing here. Otherwise, there is no option. You have to inform them. And if your medical exam was extended to July 2026, this means it's still valid. So I don't think they will ask you for another medical exam. You're welcome, Beth. I look forward to your email. All right, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll see you next time whenever there is an update or important set of updates. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. Just go to the website. That way you can get all of these updates in your inbox so you can save yourself a lot of time. Take care. Thank you so much.